Okay, we're back with part three, which I'm very, very surprised and happy to be conducting with Fritz Springmeier, one of the foremost experts, if not the foremost expert on the Illuminati bloodlines, as well as mind control, which actually we not touched on too much. Hopefully, maybe we can swing back around to that. Um, uh, so since we got the time, Fritz, I'd be interested a little bit more delving like into the secret societies, because I mean, people have told me throughout my life that really basically all of history is a war between these esoteric secret societies. Um, and I think maybe my understanding of how that war shakes out and how many players are involved, at the upper echelons of the pyramid, um, might be wrong. So can you give us a little more background on all that?
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion and disinformation about it all. So let's take the Order of Skull and Bone.
Let's.
Okay, Anthony Sutton exposed, and and some insider sent a lot of information to him. But what was interesting is somebody snuck in to their tomb, and he saw in German a ritual, the words to a ritual. Well, it turns out that that wording for that ritual are identical with the Bavarian Illuminati, and so that was a hard and fast clue that what the Order of the Skull and Bones was just a branch of the Bavarian Illuminati. So the point I'm making here is to the uninitiated, they see the Order of the Skull and Bones, they see that as a separate secret society. They don't realize that it's like a branch of the mother organization. And that's the kind of thing that I've been trying to uh, record to people. It's like I explain how the Watchtower Society got started. You know, they got financed by the Rothschilds. They got money through the B'nai B'rith and the Masonic lodges. So they were a front for the Illuminati. The same thing for the LDS Church. There's different kinds of Mormons. You've got the RLDS, you got the LDS. But I'm speaking about the ones that were so successful in Salt Lake City.
Hmm.
They got financed. Um, and so they both, got financing through Kuhn Lab and Chase Manhattan. I mean, these are banks tied in with the elite, and so you look at Mormonism and you think that that's an independent phenomenon, but really the best model that I can think of off the top of my head is back in the 60s, the USSR, which was a communist state, they called themselves the socialist state. They created front organizations in the United States to get their work. And then those front organizations might create front organizations. So we're looking, a lot of what people think are independent secret societies, and that's my point here, are actually fronts for the Illuminati. They have their people in the key controlling positions. They don't have to have all of the members be their people, as long as they control those key people, and they want some good people in there. So like the Council of Foreign Relations, that's an Illuminati organization, but they always add a few people, maybe even up to 500 people, that are just window dressing. So you go, well, that person's a pretty good person. I can't imagine that they're wanting to do all of these horrible things to the world. But so you may have someone who's in Council of Foreign Relations. They're also very important in the World Economic Forum. And then they're also a Bilderberger. And then they're also, I mean,
Right.
which one of these makes them a bad person? Well, they're in all these Illuminati front organizations. Um, the FBI was created by the Illuminati. Now, finally, people are beginning to see that the FBI is not a neutral law enforcement, but that they're politicized and they're surprised. Well, they always have been. J. Edgar Hoover was a 33rd degree Freemason, and there were a lot of, I can tell a horror story from World War II about the FBI. The Nazis wanted to infiltrate people by submarine into the United States. And I have to kind of condense this story, but they found people in Germany that had lived in the United States and spoke basically fluent English. And so they gathered these guys up, they trained them to be spies. They took and they dropped them off on Long Beach, or Long Island, on Long Island, New York. And they were to infiltrate the United States. Well, if you had grown up in the United States or lived in the United States, and then you were living in Nazi Germany, which would you prefer? Of course, you would like United States with our states and our freedom and everything else. So these people that they rounded up, by and large, most of them, they went along with the training to be saboteurs and spies, but they intended, as soon as they got to America, as soon as they had a chance, to defect. And the guy that wanted to defect the most, he immediately went. And then the FBI interviewed him. And from interviewing him, that allowed them to arrest all these others. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But
right.
the FBI wanted to be known as this great super sleuth. So when they put these guys on the trial, this guy that had defected, they wouldn't let him tell his story because they didn't want the public to know that he had given them the information, and he got executed along with the rest.
Oh, wow.
So that the FBI could look like they were this great super organization. So, they have been dirty from the start. Of course, F. Assemblyus Jr., the fugitive, they have been able to build up their image.
Yes.
But the way they have treated me was pretty amazing. They have dogged me the whole time I've been trying to expose the world order. They've been trying to turn people against me. And of course, if somebody goes to a friend of mine and says, we're FBI and you shouldn't have anything to do with Fritz because he's this bad person, well, some people are going to go along with it.
Right.
So the FBI has been trying to cover up and oppose my work.
Right.
So what I would propose to you is people like the CIA, NSA, these are really secret societies. People don't think of them that way. They think, oh, NSA, they're trying to protect us. No, they're trying to people. CIA, oh, they're trying to protect us. No, the CIA is not. They're running drugs into this country, people. They're doing a lot of things to destroy your freedom. They are a rogue organization that works for Illuminati. They got a totally different agenda. They love to torture people. They're one of the big culprits of this trauma-based mind control.
Yes.
And, they're working hand in glove with the Illuminati. They are a secret society. So when you say the word secret society, I think we should include people like, or groups like MI6, NSA, CIA, and a lot of other spook organizations that we don't really know much about.
Right. Well, I mean, I would agree on SBI and CIA. Again, like, I want to believe in Bobby Kennedy. Having known people in NSA and brushed up against them a few times, I would like to believe that they still have some people in key positions who are America first. But time will tell.
You're always going to have a few people that, there's not that many bad people.
No.
They have to bring in legitimate IT technicians. They have to bring in some good people to fill some of the positions. But that doesn't mean that they're not controlled.
Right.
But I mean,
they got to follow orders, they got to get their, yes.
George H.W. Bush, head of the CIA, ties into Illuminati bloodlines. And
Yes.
while we're speaking here about Illuminati bloodlines, Trump is 17th generation back to the Plantagenet, and 11 presidents in my Bloodlines of the Illuminati book. I have some genealogy chart, and I show how 11 presidents go back to the Plantagenet. I don't have Trump in there because the book came out in
Right.
1995. So, and that is a branch of the Holy Illuminati 13th bloodline, their most powerful bloodline.
Yes.
So
I remember seeing he's tied into some Scottish royalty as well, I believe. Someone was trying to show anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine. It's two-way discussion. So yeah, uh anyway, you got that going on for whatever it's worth. And
Uh,
um
sorry, go ahead. I want to let you finish. I got something lined up.
oh, go ahead with your next question.
Well, you had mentioned Skull and Bones earlier, and I know Skull and Bones was an exclusively male organization for many, many years, but in the past few, actually, I think more than a decade now, they've begun uh, uh, taking women pledges, and so I had recently read portions of your Bloodline to the Illuminati book, and I was reminded of the grandmother, GRANDE mother, not grandmother like my grandma, but grandmother as a signifier of power. And inside the passage that I had read, she was actually addressing and atop of a grand council of the Illuminati. And, again, like more blacks rising to positions of power, we see, I believe, more and more women rising to positions of at least political power and corporate power. And so I'm wondering, again, is this a evolution of what's going on in the Illuminati for the rise of women? Have they always been there, just sort of the power behind the throne, and we haven't seen them? I mean, you hear the Council of 300 is still all men. I don't even know if that's true. But could we speak to where women fall in this hierarchy that's being externalized?
Yes. Traditionally, and if you study witchcraft, you'll be fully cognizant of this. The females have a lot of times been the spiritual power in the covenant, and it's been that way for the Illuminati. In terms of spiritual power, the women are the leaders. In terms of politics and some of these other things like banking, the men have been leaders. But as we've gotten the externalization of the hierarchy, you've noticed that over there in Europe, a number of the secretaries of defense of some of these countries are women. So women have been coming into traditional men's positions. Margaret Thatcher is an example, prime minister. So that's externalization of the hierarchy. Yeah, the women are, because they view Christianity as paternal.
Yes.
And you can read in their literature, they just lambast Christianity for us being terrible because we are paternal and witchcraft is maternal, and supposedly the women leading things is much better than men. It's not entirely that way in the Illuminati, but when it comes to spiritual issues, it's definitely the women are the lead.
So spiritual, you say, in a sense of practicing magic and making a contact or connection with the spiritual world. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so if you look at witchcraft, what they're trying to do is they're trying to use laws and formulas then to contact the spirit world. And You do a particular ritual and you can pull down a particular demon or spirit, you know. You can get in touch with your spirit guide. And the Illuminati are being directed by other beings, non-human intelligence.
Yes.
And uh, that's a fact. That's not something that they're even ashamed of. You know, they take pride that they're able to contact these beings and get direction. And the women are very powerful in doing it.
Hmm.
So the men try to do that too, but the women are leaders in that realm. And I guess you could say women are more intuitive. You know, there's the, you know, they say now, you know, get in touch with your feminine side, you know, because there's this whole world that the supposedly the female brain can can conjure up that the male is quite limited. You know, we're kind of brute, but they're a superior creature, so to speak. And so this contrasts Christianity with with the Illuminati's type of thinking. So if you look at Christendom, you'll see that women have taken over roles. Joyce Joyner, you know, you've got different women stepping in as major preachers on the internet. This is all externalization of the hierarchy, moving us away from this paternal model to the maternal model of witchcraft.
Right, but it doesn't seem particularly maternal to me. I mean, it seems to me rooted in, again, death. You know, I mean, like in America, like what's considered, you know, and I'm speaking very broadly, but like what's considered like the height of freedom, you know, for a feminist, it's to have an abortion, right? I mean, like that's
Yeah.
the numero uno issue.
Oh yeah, yeah. The Illuminati is a cult of death.
Yes, right.
Yeah, yeah, they're Satan is a cult of death. And so you look at American culture. American culture has been destroyed in our lifetime. And
Yes.
so now people are tattooing skulls on their bodies and all kinds of death symbols. And you know, you have a band Grateful Dead. You know, it's our culture is in love with death.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they have made you go to the supermarket and everything's tainted. It's tainted with something to destroy you.
Yeah.
You go to the public school and everything's tainted to destroy you. I could go item by item and talk about these things. It's like here, they have gotten rid of books entirely from the public school. They are now using iPad. And like I was a school bus driver a couple years ago, and our school buses did not have air conditioning. It gets hot in where I live, very hot, but they don't have air conditioning. But they have iPads. Well, what about these iPads? Well, the antenna is down at the bottom, and they give each child an iPad in public school. Now, if the child is not careful, that iPad puts out radiation and repeated use. It doesn't take that long for a girl to neuter all of her eggs.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
The same thing with these cell phones. These girls think that they're really cool, and they keep these cell phones in their hip pocket thinking they're cool. That radiation that comes out from that is going to neuter them.
Right.
They're not going to be able to have children.
Right.
So we live in a cult of death, and people are doing all these things to destroy them and don't even know it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've told my kids not to put their phones in their pocket. I remember there was a study a few years ago about those wireless earbuds, and they like had like 500 scientists from around the world and say, hey, you know, you might be giving yourself brain cancer. We shouldn't do this. nobody ever talks about that anymore. I see everybody walking around with their wireless earbuds. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, live in
Um,
a culture of death.
right. Yes. Another culture of death. Um, I did tell one person that I was going to be talking to you, and he said to me, you got to ask him about Bloodlines of the Illuminati ending up in Osama bin Laden's library. And then making it onto the CIA website. I mean, I will tell you, Fritz, when I first heard about you, I was living in Atlanta in the late 1990s, and I tried to get my hand on Bloodlines of the Illuminati, and like it was like $1,200. You couldn't find it; it was out of print. And like now, anybody can download it off the CIA's website. I mean, like, is that part of the revelation of the method and the externalization of the hierarchy? And like, what is going on with all that?
Boy, that threw me for a loop too. And then their narrative is that they found it in Osama bin Laden's library, which I really wonder,
Yeah, me
if
too.
that isn't just a hokey story.
Well, since he was
Um,
dead, in my opinion, he'd been dead for years. Just my opinion.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's all a made up narrative. Yeah, and then they put it on. I don't know. I'm wondering, like you, if that isn't revelation of the hierarchy, because I do such a good job of explaining who these people are. In fact, I was surprised one day, one person said, you must be Illuminati to have written this because you're promoting them. And I was thinking, promoting them? No, I'm not promoting them. I'm just I'm just exposing them. But I guess if if at this stage they want to be exposed, I guess in a weird way, I guess it's helping them, because they don't have to say that it's real. It's just it's right there. And they love to muddy the waters,
Yes.
Just what is real, It's like if something happens out there like 9/11, then they'll come out with 20 versions. So
Yeah.
if you don't want to believe the official narrative, you're like the waters are so muddied with all these other versions, you just like throw your hands up and go, well, I can't make head or tail out of all of this.
Right.
So you know, so it's not the 13 bloodlines that Fritz says. It's the black nobility. It's not what Fritz says. It's actually this bloodline, or it's this group, or they've got the water so muddy. No, I got this straight from the horse's mouth. I talked with people that I was helping escape the Illuminati. I watched what happened with them. They took me around to ritual sites. They would take me. I mean, no, what I put out in the Bloodlines of Illuminati, that's for real.
Mm.
And um, I've met these people. I've shook hands with them, which is creepy. Um, I know how they think, and I don't know. All I can say is, yeah, I found it bizarre too. But hey, I do know that at that same time period, they were wanting me to write a history of them. So I guess they're ready to they think that you have to understand the arrogance of these people, that they they really do control things. So if I try to explain to people how much they control things, I mean, it will freeze people. They will be like deer caught in the headlights. It's just
Yes.
like people don't realize everything you say is being recorded, is being drug into the beast computers from your cell phones.
Yes.
The whole time while your cell phone's off, you're still being recorded.
Yes.
Talk about something like, you have a hernia or whatever, and see if they don't send you advertisements for hernias.
Right.
They're listening to you. Everything's being
Always.
recorded.
Yep.
You have no
Yep.
privacy.
No.
And so the people at the top really do think that there isn't anything that can take their control away.
Right. Right. Um, yeah, sorry, I had another question lined up, and then I was just like, oh yeah, yeah. And then I'm kind of off. But uh oh, I know what it was now. Because it was something you had mentioned. Um Another de-occultist, Michael Hoffman, who wrote Secret Societies and Psychological Warfare, kind of touched on one of the things that you mentioned. We were talking about your book getting more exposure because it was allegedly inside bin Laden's compound, and it is now on CIA's website. One, even if we know that this stuff is going on, like, for example, like the Paris occult event with the opening ceremonies, like, even once people start to recognize this, does that reduce the power of what they're trying to do? Or does it just like, well, now you know, and we're all in this together, and ride along, and like that's the Hoffman thing. He says it's back to the lose-lose. Like if you continue on obliviously, um, they run rampant and unchecked. But once you figure out what they're doing, it both invites you into their ritual as well as shows you how helpless you are. So is there something to figuring this out, or is it all like the portrait in frustration? Once you figured out Jesus is the answer, because again, like I know there are people who have told me, like, boy, I never thought any of this was real until like the past couple of years, and obviously there's supernatural evil going on. So if there's supernatural evil, there must be supernatural good. So I would suppose that is a potential upside. But once you get that, once you're like, okay, I'm on board, Jesus, please help me out, after that, is it just a portrait in frustration?
Well, that's a good question. It's I had a calling from God to do this, um, but the information is is it's a double-edged sword. I'll give you an example. Like, let's say there's somebody and they give their heart to Christ. Okay, I don't want them to read my material because they're tender, they're young, they can't handle the storm. They needed to be treated with kid glove. If they read my Be Wise as Serpents book and saw that all the churches are compromised, it's going to so blow their mind. It might still birth their Christian experience. You know, yeah. So this information, even though I am trying to expose the hierarchy, it's a double-edged sword, and I wouldn't want everybody reading. Everybody's not at a place where it's going to profit them. Yeah. I don't
No,
know
but
what
it's
else.
one of the things I wrestle with. It's like, am I really, by trying to bring all this stuff out, and is it actually doing anything really? I mean, is it just making people more afraid and helpless? I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, it's like you watch Alex Jones, and people have said he's a fearmonger, and I can't argue with that. And if you read the scriptures, Christ constantly said, you know, step forward with courage, and then God will strengthen you. He's constantly saying, fear not, fear not, fear not. And so if you get this information in the wrong context, and it's just going to make you more fearful, then it's self-defeating. And so when you hear me speak, you don't hear me trying to instill fear into people.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, this information, which is like dynamite, you can blow yourself up with dynamite. I mean,
Yes.
you better use it in a positive way. Um, and so yeah, I think some people are probably going to blow themselves up. You can't you can't look at it and become fearful. You can use it like you were saying, where you realize, oh yeah, now I understand what's going on with the world. It's a lot more dangerous than I realized. Yes, now I understand that all these different secret societies hate Christ. The one thing that they have in common that's real obvious is everybody hates Christ.
Yes, absolutely.
And so he's the answer to them, you know. But what did Christ say? He said, he told people what you have to do if you want to be part of the kingdom of light. And so if you're wanting to turn from all this evil, you need to delve into Christ. Christ said, cast your cares upon me. I will give you peace, and all these other things. And so if we're not able to have peace, the peace of Christ, we're going down the wrong road. And I don't want you to take my information and let it disturb you and take you away from Christ. I want people to use it as a tool to take you towards Christ.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And let's see, I'm down to 7 minutes. And actually, one question that I wanted to ask that I got out of rereading portions of your book, like it's almost like burying the lead. I mean, the bloodlines of the Illuminati are where they are because they believe that there is something in their blood that sets them apart from other people. What is it? What is it about the blood of these people that sets them apart?
Well, again, that's a big answer. For starters, one of the first things is trauma-based mind control works off of dissociation and intelligence. So they like to, if you're doing things ideally, they take an 18-month-old child and they do horrendous traumas to this child. Now that child can respond to these horrendous traumas in 3 ways. One, they can just simply die, curl up and die. And some of the children that are being programmed do, they just die. They can't handle the trauma. Another response is to go crazy, which is a really sane response when you're being insanely traumatized, is to just go crazy. And some of the children do that. But there's a third way of reacting, and that is you can, through creative intelligence, say, this is not happening to me. This is happening to another person. You have a psychotic break. You, through the powers of mind's power of dissociation, the mind splits. And that's where you get what used to be called multiple personality disorder. The mind says, this isn't happening to me. It's happening to that person. And you have a split. And that is how they're able to, that's why it's called trauma-based mind control. They use that dissociation, that power to dissociate creatively to build MPD. And now it's called DID, dissociative identity disorder. And that's, they build these big multiple personality systems. Well, the Illuminati bloodlines have passed through their genetics the power to dissociate that way. They're intelligent and they're very good at dissociating, and they're very good at creativity. And so, because they've been doing this for many, many centuries, when I was back in the 90s, a Rothschild that was being deprogrammed there's a code word in their programming, and part of that code word, it's like a license plate or something, there's a number, and that number indicates generations, and they had 42. That means they had 42 generations of trauma-based mind control programming up before, to their point. So this has been going on a long time. The secret Rothschild genealogy book takes them back to Nimrod, So that's one reason why they like it, is because their people can be programmed with this trauma-based mind control, which is a total mind control, which is when people in your audience, they're not familiar with my books and trauma-based mind control. When I say mind control, it's a million times more powerful than what they're thinking mind control.
Right. Yes.
It totally controls the person. There is no wiggle room.
Right.
So they like that because their bloodlines, they have been able to control their bloodlines. And these bloodlines have the ability to do things like astral project, some of these other witchy crafts that they want. So they have occult power. They're passing these occult powers from one generation to another. So that's another reason why they think that they're special. They think that their bloodlines go back to Lucifer and Christ. So whether you want to believe that is a myth that they believe in, or whether you want to say, well, there must be something to it, they believe it. They believe that there's, and there's some people that think that their DNA goes back to things that are not human. You know, that's what David Icke is
Right.
saying, that these bloodlines are reptilian, they're not even human.
Right.
I have not been able to verify that one way or the other. You know, before David Icke went public, I was researching that, and I came to the conclusion that, you know, I can't verify any of that, so I'm just not even going to go there. But they definitely are working with non-human intelligence.
Yes.
So whether they have non-human intelligence DNA or something, if you want to believe that, fine. They're definitely working with them, and so the end result is the same. Their agenda is not a human agenda. It's for the destruction of the human race.
Yes.
And so they might as well be reptilians, because they're traitors to the human race. If they're human, they're traitors to the human race, and they're destroying the human race. And that's the bottom line.
And that's fantastic that you finish it with that, because we're down to like our last 40 seconds. And once we start getting into like, just who exactly do these people report to, that is like a whole nother wing down the rabbit hole, and you know, a story for another day. But Fritz Springmeier, I cannot thank you enough, and not just for today, but for like all your work, and God bless you. And I will give you the final word.
Tom, I really want to express my thanks to you giving me this opportunity to talk. And, you know, we're in this together. That's what I tell people. All of us, we're in this together, you know, and and my final thought here is that I would hope that the members of the audience would be in that class of people that are referred to in the scriptures as overcomers. In order to be overcomers, you need the Spirit of God to strengthen and guide you, and you need the blood of Jesus Christ. So that was my final thought.
Amen to that. It's a great one. Thank you very much, Fritz Springmeier.